I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com for Friday, August 14th, 2020, the WNW 444, and it is Kamala Harris, senator from California, wasn't Biden's first choice, says David Axelrod. David Axelrod's a huge Democrat operative, right? One of the top guys in the Democrat Party in terms of consulting and leadership and guidance and all that. I can't believe he even said this. Kamala Harris wasn't Biden's first choice. That'd be like out of Karl Rove saying Mike Pence wasn't Trump's first choice. You didn't hear that. I'm surprised he said it. Which tells you how shaky the choice is. When I heard Kamala, I went, woo, that's going to help the Republicans. I mean, this is a woman whose dad admitted that his ancestry, they owned slaves in Jamaica. Also some questions about whether or not she's even qualified to be president, foreign born. But, we'll see. I don't know. Here's Axelrod goes on to say, Harris was viewed as the safest pick to win in November. As I said, Kamala's ancestors owned slaves. How are they going to... She was supposed to bring black votes to the party. I mean, especially after Biden's and you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black. That whole thing, condescending thing, which didn't go over well in the black community at all. It didn't go over very well at all. She might be foreign born. There's some people out there saying she's not eligible to be president. She was of all the top tier candidates in terms of black support, black voter support. She came in last. She was behind, Hiawatha, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. Warren had 6%. Kamala Harris only had 5%. Bernie Sanders had 11%. He had over twice these black support. Biden supposedly 43%. Well, that was before the, if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black comment and all kinds of other stuff. Harris even called him inferred he was a racist. Biden in the debates. So I don't understand how she is a top pick. I mean, she's also been quoted as saying that if the Democrats get back into the position of power, they're going to hunt down Trump supporters, people that failed this country, hunt them down. Woo! Now you know why they want to take your firearms away. She's an awful, strict anti-Second Amendment person, and the stomach for taking away your gun rights has sunk to an all-time low. Many Democrats want gun rights. Look what's happening in the Democrat cities. Here we have, this is happening in Chicago. They came out, Lightfoot and the police chief said, oh, it wasn't organized. Really? Just several hundred people ran through the Miracle Mile in downtown Chicago. They all had the same idea all at one time and just went through the Miracle Mile and looted Chicago, the richest section of Chicago. That tax base is gone, folks. It's gutted. I don't know what these numbskull morons are thinking. Tax base gone. Black Lives Matter leader calls looting reparations, encourages looters to continue. Just continue. That's people not paying taxes. That's minorities in downtown. A lot of businesses they say in all these big cities, half of the businesses looted and destroyed were minority owned. They don't care. Black Lives Matter in Seattle demands white people move out of homes and leave them for black people. Keep voting Democrat, y'all. Keep voting Democrat. Here's my little scumball Marxist rag newspaper, and this is Novant Health. And they're kneeling for, this just happened extemporaneously, right? No, set up shot, totally staged. PSYOP, as I've been telling. Look, their eyes are closed. They're kneeling. Oh, their heads are bowed to godless Marxism. That's what Black Lives Matter is. Novant Health bowing to godless Marxism, where they want to destroy the traditional family and remove daddy out of the house. That's worked so well for black people. 70% of women, black women, have babies out of wedlock. More Democrat crazy. Half the apartments in San Francisco empty. I got a friend of mine has an apartment up there. He goes, yeah, I'm probably a little late to selling it, but yeah. Trump's just had an executive order, so moratorium on evictions. Who pays for that? I don't have a free button anywhere on my desk here, in my house, in my car. Where free? I don't have one. Either the landlords. Here we are again. District Attorney in Portland said his office will not pursue charges against most far-left street thugs arrested during continued riots and anarchy. 550 cases have been referred to the DA Smith's office for misdemeanor or felony prosecution or a combination of the two. Nope, he actually says, well, if they suffered this tear gas and stuff, that's normal to confront and obstruct police and assault police if you've been tear gassed. And he says that basically, I paraphrase that, he's not going to prosecute, for cases related to protest activity. You mean riot activities. He's not going to prosecute rioters that they like to call protesting protected under the First Amendment. No, rioting is not protected under the First Amendment. Can you imagine trying to sell a house in Seattle, in Chicago, New York? Detroit has it under control. They're not letting this happen. They're not stupid. Hats off to Detroit. What's going to happen to the insurance? Now they have this thing in Minneapolis where if you want to rebuild, you have to pay all your taxes for the rest of the year. My business is destroyed. You allowed this to happen. You allowed rioters to burn down and loot businesses, and now I'd like to rebuild, and you're telling me I got to pay my taxes a year, all to the end of the year in order for me to do that. They put up a fence at one guy's business, a foreigner, obviously, not born in America. And he was just like, actually, they sent me a bill for, I don't know, $3,700 to put up a fence around a dangerous place, where my building was burned down, where my business was burned down. Keep voting Democrat. It's not my neighborhood. I'm going to keep voting Democrat. Kamala's a great candidate. I'm not going to prosecute these people. I'm going to do it. These are all, a lot of these prosecutors, this is an evil tact by George Soros and his Open Society Foundation. The prosecutor in St. Louis, she's not prosecuted hundreds of rioters. Let those go. Not prosecuting violent crime. The prosecutor up in Kim Fox up in Chicago, she didn't prosecute 25,000 different felony crimes. The prosecutor I just told you in Portland, they are the rioters. If it has something to do with the protest, the rioting, not going to prosecute people that harm and assault police officers in Portland. Crazy. Can you imagine what's happening with insurance rates? If I was an insurance company, I'd go to these cities and say, listen, you got a business here or a house within, in the 30 miles around Portland or Seattle or Chicago or Minneapolis or New York, or I'm going to raise the rates. The insurance commissioner won't let me raise the rate because, the commissioner has a free button on his desk. Okay, yeah, we're out. We're not going to write insurance. We're not writing insurance anymore. If we do, we want 5 times the rate. Think about that. Truckers aren't going into some of these cities that have cut the police, that are letting this happen. The police aren't responding. The police, not their fault. They're being handcuffed. They're being basically wink, wink. If you enforce the law, we're going to prosecute you and throw you in jail. Just like this guy. Paul Howard, who, this Rashard Brooks were rolling around on the ground with the cops after the cops were called by Wendy's because he fell asleep in the drive-thru. He was blocking their line. And they tested drunk on his tail, 1.2 or something percent on the breathalyzer, but way above the average. And they were going to arrest him for, DUI. And he's rolling around on the ground with 2 cops. Took their tasers. He's shooting at us. He's running away. The cops. they're not going to get a conviction on that. I'm sorry, they're not. If the people are fair, they're not. And the corrupt DA, Paul Howard, got wiped out in an election after charging police officer with murder, Rashard Brooks. On Tuesday, Fannie Willis, I think another Democrat, defeated Paul Howard with nearly 73% of the vote. If Fannie was smart, she'd take the heat and say, "We're done. I'm out. We're dropping the charges." I mean, a taser. You say, "Oh, a taser's not a lethal weapon." Yes, it is. In Georgia, it sure is. Somebody grabs your taser, a police officer grabs your taser and points it at you. You can pull your weapon and shoot him. Now, if Rashard Brooks was just simply running away, no, they couldn't have shot him. But he was running away and shooting the cop's taser that he took. Crazy. Then Bill Barr gets himself booked on Hannity at the last minute. And William Barr, Attorney General, goes on Hannity to announce the launch of Operation Legend. Legend's named after a little kid named Legend with all this violence shot in the head while he was in his own house to help crack down on violent crime in U.S. cities. Barr is talking about how, cops have been villainized and they can't do their jobs, and we're working with local law enforcement. They arrested the guy that shot this little boy, 4-year-old boy, in the head. They arrested him. And I think this is going to trickle down to all the other crimes at federal buildings and blinding cops with lasers and assaulting police officers. And, they're trying to neuter the police by beating them down and saying they're going to, prosecute them. And people that assault them and commit all kinds of felony, but just let them go. It's happening all over the country. Just let them go. They have one of those George Soros, we're not going to prosecute prosecutors in Philadelphia, also in Dallas, Texas. I mean, it's outrageous. They just try to destroy and destabilize America by putting as many criminals back on the street and demoralize the police as much as they can. Police, people don't hate you. We love you. We love the police. That's a psyop. The overwhelming majority want the police. Don't quit. There's no jobs out there. Just hang in there. Even if you have to stand down, you're forced to stand down, just hang in there. Just hang in there. Don't quit. That's what they want you to do. Don't quit. I say that to every police officer. I roll my window down. Hey, this is a PSYOP, officer. People love the police. We support you. We don't want to defund the police. That's a scam. That's a PSYOP. Yeah, he's going to crack down on violent criminals, and I think that's going to roll into the violent protests, the violent riots that are a protest, not protected under the First Amendment. This is a takeover of America, the destabilization of America from Marxist, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Marxist forces. That's what this is. To destabilize the country before the election, because the Marxist, Democrat, globalist, evil, Satanist can't win the election. They know they can't. That's why they want to do this ginormous, cheat by mail voting. That ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. Some of it will, but it's not going to really happen. We need to pray, folks. Pray, like Jonathan Cahn said. Pray now and pray all the way and keep praying. Like Chronicle says, humble yourself in front of the Lord and repent, and I'll heal your land. Pray. Now, he didn't say all the bad people should pray. All the good people have to pray. That's you and me. We're sinners, but we still believe in Christ, which makes us the good people. This is kind of good news and a bit disturbing at the same time. And we have, Donald Trump is anointed by God when headlines like this come up. Donald Trump, peacemaker, a lot of interest from a lot of countries in the region, ready to make deals with Israel. United Arab Emirates was the first to make a deal with Israel. The Palestinians are hopping mad. There's a trading peace for land component, but it wasn't good enough for the Palestinians. They recalled their ambassador from UAE, United Arab Emirates, but they think many other countries are going to sign on to it and get with it. Is this the beginning? Maybe not the beginning right now, but the very start of setting us up for the 7-year tribulation that's in Daniel. Matthew, it's in other Isaiah. Is this, the Revelations? Is this it? Is this the beginning? Is this the crack open? Maybe this isn't the deal, but is this the beginning of the deal that has 3.5 years and 3.5 years and a very turbulent period in the middle, but 3.5 years, and then the last 3.5 year, awful, terrible, tribulation, turbulent, violent, as in the days of Noah, as Jesus said, type stuff. I don't know. I mean, peace is a good thing, but I don't know. I don't know. Congratulations on getting a peace deal, President Trump. I'm not slighting him for that. I'm just saying bigger picture. As soon as I heard it was, is this the beginning of the 7-year tribulation? I don't know. Here's one off of, I like Gateway Pundit, and incidentally, Gateway Pundit, Breitbart, there's a couple big, Zero Hedge. Those are all people that I use a lot of. But this is their headline, and I couldn't agree more. Jail Fauci. U.S. has almost 30 times more COVID-19 deaths per population than third world countries that promoted early HCUs, hydroxychloroquine. I'm sure they use zinc too. HCQ zinc. This is the latest international testing. This is a big testing. This is a big study of hydroxychloroquine treatment of coronavirus. Those countries that had early use of the drug had a 79% lower mortality rate than countries that banned the use of the safe malaria drug. They're doing that, happened that all over the country. Up in, I think it's Michigan, doctors are suing because the FDA is saying you can't use it. What's up with the FDA? All the studies, all the science, all these science saying hydroxychloroquine early on, zinc, azithromycin, a Z-Pak work. This isn't some crazy tinfoil hat stuff. These are frontline doctors all saying this. And what are we getting from the FDA? Don't use hydroxychloroquine, because they sold out to the big pharma drug companies who want to tattoo us and give us a vaccine that doesn't really work. And it's a heck of a lot more expensive than hydroxychloroquine and zinc. It's a few bucks, relatively speaking. They could have saved 100,000 lives, 80%, roughly 80%. Could have saved 100,000 U.S. lives. And this is why I say that big tech, the mainstream media, the CDC, and other government agencies trying to crack down and ignore and falsely say that HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, doesn't work. They have blood on their hands. This is tens of thousands of frontline doctors now saying this. Why isn't the CDC, instead of dragging their feet and this big warning about the fall for the COVID, why aren't they saying, hey, don't worry, let's just get early adaptation. Anybody getting this early should take hydroxychloroquine and zinc. And with all the real world studies and applications of this, it will work. It has worked. And then you have this story. 640 European doctors gathered to discuss the overreaction to COVID and how it's damaging society. You know, not getting operations, not getting exercise, how it's, causing people to have more suicides. The biggest thing about the COVID thing is the overreaction to it. One doctor at the conference said, we want to defend our families and our citizens. And to close this story is really quite simple. If you look behind the curtains, and you will see, well, okay, this medical story with COVID-19, we have the facts. It's a scam. It's fake. 640 European doctors gathering. They got a website, very slick, gathering to discuss this. I'm sure a lot of them would say, just take HCQ. Takes hydroxychloroquine. You got people getting prescribed hydroxychloroquine, and the pharmacist is overriding the doctors because of the medical boards and saying, we can't give it to you. We're not going to give it to you. Really? Why not? That's because we don't want to give it to you, because we want you to die or take our vaccine. This is evil, folks. And what does the mainstream media do? Keep perpetuating this lie that hydroxychloroquine is dangerous. It's not, and it doesn't work, and it does, along with zinc, early on. Didier Raoult had something like 98%, 92%, depending on which group you looked at. Zev Zelensky, I think his name is, had another doctor here in the U.S. Says he's cured hundreds of patients. Other doctors around the world have used this. You've seen the early adoption in third world countries, 80% success rate, 80% less deaths. The scientific data is there to show that Fauci, Birx, top people at the FDA, CDC have blood on their hands. That's all there's to it. That's not hyperbole. It's not what I think. And I've been talking about this for I don't know how long, about HCQ and all the ways science proves it works in real world application, and how, they're talking about a 65-year-old drug. I can give heart arrhythmia. No, that's not the common side effect of this drug, which is literally nil. Some doctors are prescribing to 2,000 patients that say the downside is nil. They come up with these phony studies where they test the wrong people, or they give it hydroxychloroquine too late in the cytokine storm, too late where they're so sick then they die and go, oh, we gave it to them a day before they died. It didn't work. Lies. Evil. They want you to die. The economy, I'm telling you, they fall off from the economy is disastrous. And it's so funny. The worst it is in these big Democrat-controlled cities. I mean, de Blasio, who blaming Donald Trump for all the problems of New York City. No, you can blame Cuomo, who killed thousands in nursing homes because of his idiotic policies that they're covering up, and de Blasio, who's defunding the police and allowing rampant crime to go on, and and people, and what's happening? Tax base. Old saying, money goes where it's treated best. You think money's being treated well in New York City? Just because you got a big high penthouse, as I've said, you go down, 30, 40 floors, ding, 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 hello, Bob, Clores it, ding, 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 hello, Mary, ding, ding, go out to the lobby, walk out there, smell of urine, and you're on the same street the criminal's on. And you can't defend yourself in New York or New Jersey. You have to escape. You have to try to escape. They want you to jump out your 44th window, 40-floor window, your 40-story window to escape the bad guys. Because you can't hurt the bad guys up in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. You can't hurt the bad guys. No. That's white privilege. Wealthy residents flee in droves at your tax base as the city degenerates into a hellhole. This is from Michael Snyder, who's been a guest on here. Bright guy, he's an attorney, ran for office, I think, out in Idaho. He's a smart guy. In the city's very wealthiest blocks, in neighborhoods like the Upper East Side, the West Village, Soho, Brooklyn Heights, residential population decreased by 40% or more, while the rest of the city saw comparatively modest changes. That's because all the poor people are in the comparatively modest changes. They can't escape, but money can. You're losing your tax base. These numbskulls. And how do you fix that? If somebody does want to, have enough capital to rebuild a business, would you rebuild it where they could loot your store and the mayor would turn his back on you, or blame some Republicans, which there are no office holders in New York City that are Republican? None. Zero. Keep voting Democrat. Democrats voted de Blasio in. It's like voting the devil in. You don't think bad things will happen if we vote the devil in, do you? A Marxist, communist, a guy that's got a free button on his desk? What could go wrong? And now, this story about the stimulus. Furious Democrats faced with a daunting question. Will they dare to challenge Trump's stimulus orders? The Treasury is, of course, sitting on a cash balance of $1.8 trillion. That's not provided by Congress. That's at the Treasury. Steve Mnuchin. One of the sticking points is 400 weekly. It's what Trump wants to do instead of 600. Dems want 1.1 trillion. They want 3 trillion, but they want 1.1 trillion just for burned out, indebted cities and states. Republicans want 18 billion for the burned out cities. Think about this. This is the big sticking point. Okay, the biggest. There are many, but this is the biggest. I mean, the Republicans want to provide money for small businesses and stimulus and loans and things like that. The Democrats want to spend more than $3 trillion. The Republicans want to spend a little more than $1 trillion. And we've already printed up, what, $2.5 trillion in the last package. And then you have all the Fed bond buying and all the repo market, which nobody's talking about now, and all the other, crazy things. And the Democrats want 1.1 trillion just to fix their burned out cities and indebted states. The Republicans want to spend in total for unemployment, for loans, for forgiveness, for all kinds of stuff, for small, relief on student loans, putting that off. They want to spend $1 trillion. The Democrats want to spend $1.1 trillion just to fix their burned out cities that they allow these crazy Marxists to burn down. They told their police forces to step aside. It's not the cops' fault. I mean, this isn't happening in Detroit, folks. Those Democrats up there aren't full-blown crazy. They're like, no. We're not burning down our own city. Half of the businesses, I tell you this, it's worth saying again. Half the businesses in these cities are minority-owned. Keep voting Democrat. People like George Soros and the wealthy, they want to see this happen to punish Trump voters and to punish people and destabilize the country so they can finally have their Marxist hellhole control over the United States of America and destroy the Constitution and put 50 million people in a concentration camp, and boom. They want to do 25 in the 60s, 25 million Americans for their communist wet dream. So, boy, they have destabilized things. So here you have this. Seems like good news, right? After a big jobs number, initial jobless claims fall below 1 million for the first time in 21 weeks. Yay! Almost 1 million people still applied for initial unemployment benefits. 1 million, almost 1 million. I think it's 980,000 in the chart. That's what this looks like. It's dwindled down to. It's a dwindled down to of just a little less than 1 million, which is why the stimulus is needed. Otherwise, the whole thing is going to implode. And it may implode anyway, but they're going to try to keep it from imploding till after the election. Big smash down on silver this week. I started laughing when I saw it. Desperation, down $4, more than $4. Gold down more than $100. Costs money to do that. I called up Bo Pony and said, Bo, this sounds like desperation. He goes, Greg, it's right. You're right. He says, look for it to start bouncing back. And it's going to bounce back pretty hard. What happened? Silver is now, as I talk to you right now, a little above $27 an ounce. It went down to what, 25? So it's come back half of what they smashed it down. They dumped, as Craig Hemke pointed out, twice the annual mine production on the market. They don't have that. They don't have 1/100th of the mine production to dump on the market. And they dumped twice the annual silver mine production onto the market. Man, if they took and counterfeited Amazon shares and dumped twice as amount of Amazon shares onto the market, counterfeited them and crashed the stock, thousands of dollars, there'd be an investigation. People would be in jail. That happened one time. Same thing with Microsoft. What about if Facebook? They counterfeited double the amount of Facebook shares and dumped them onto the market so they could crash Facebook. People would be going to jail. That would happen one time. If they did that to Alphabet, Google, if they counterfeited double the amount of stocks, Google, and dumped it onto the market to crash the stock, investigation. How can they do that? It's illegal. But we somehow just put up with this, dumping half the mine production. It's totally illegal. It's fraud. It's what they did. It's okay. It's backed by the Exchange Stabilization Fund. It's okay. We got to make the dollar look good. Bo Pony says, I'll tell you what, you can tell he wanted me to use some charts and stuff like that. I thought, it's into the weeds. I don't want to, do all that. He said, okay. Just tell your people, I'm telling you. Incidentally, he made some crazy small calls. He called the big sell. Didn't know it was going to go off $4. But he was told his subscribers, he sent me this, what he sent to his subscribers. He said, there's going to be a sell-off on whatever, Tuesday or whatever it was. He didn't know it was going to go down $4 for silver and $100 for gold, but he said it's going to be a sharp sell-off. Then he said it's going to go back up. Sure enough, it did. It sold off. and started going back up pretty strong. I mean, a couple of dollars in silver in a couple of days after selling off more than $4, that's pretty strong. And gold's at what, 1950 after being in the low teens? He thinks, here you go, let's see if he's right. He says by next week, likely early next week, we'll be at new all-time highs for gold and silver. The demand is off the charts. Craig Hemke said, listen, nothing has changed with the fundamentals. Remember that? He said that this week. He's right. Nothing's changed. They just smashed it down with their illegal, naked, short selling, counterfeiting stuff they don't have to drive the market into the tank, but it didn't work. And it cost money, incidentally. This is not what they wanted. 25, boing, back up to 27, from 2000 and 30 or so down to 19 and change, and now it's 1950, doing. Not what they wanted. That was not what they wanted. That's got to freak them out. And if we do hit new all-time highs at the beginning of next week or next week, woo, that's not what they wanted. That's not what they wanted. John Williams is out also, too, saying, listen, $2,000 gold with all the debt, all the bond creation, debt creation, money printing, digital, all the debt, $2,000 gold is cheap. $27 silver, cheap. I mean, it got up to almost 50 at its all-time high in 2011. Cheap. I hear people tell me this, and I want to stop you from doing it. If you're the kind of person that says, okay, I'm going to buy it, but when do I sell it? That's a trade. Don't do it. That's you need to be in the stock market. You need to be day trading. You don't do it. You're not mentally fit for this. Don't. I've always said metal, and there's going to be a time we're not going to be able to get it. So the price is going to go up and the supply is going to go down. It's going to be unobtainium at some point. Unobtainium. And this should be a core asset for you. And this is if you have your car paid off and your house in order and everything working and food and everything you need. And then this on top. It's not just get gold or food. They get it all. Bruce Lee, you got to train every muscle in your body because you never know what you're going to need in a fight. So get it all. And if you're buying silver and saying, okay, when do I sell it? Then you're stupid. Don't buy it. You got no business doing this. You don't have the money to do it. You don't have the mentality to do it. This should be a core asset for your family. This should be a doomsday. This is the last thing we sell, not the first. Now I'm going to make some money on a trade. Don't write me and tell me that. Oh, what about selling it? If you can even get it, and if you can hold your trade, your position, it's like an insurance policy that doesn't expire. I mean, everybody must buy car insurance every 6 months and every 3 months or whatever every month, whatever. And at the end of a month or 3 months or 6 months or whatever, I do it every 6 months. Then it expires. Gold and silver, physical, are like insurance that never expires once you buy it. And that's the way you ought to look at it. And with all this money printing and this change coming up for the Fed, how they're going to, we're going to let inflation run basically past 2%. We're going to have 8 to 14% according to Catherine Austin Fitts, depending on where you live. But, the officially 2%. But they're going to let inflation run and they're not going to let interest rates to fight it. They're telling you gold and silver are going to go up. That's what they're telling you. And to actually talk about silver, I've been kind of loading up my guest and the guy that wrote this book, Silver Manifesto. Yes, David Morgan. Still valuable. Everything you want to know about silver. He produced it, a few years ago. Also wrote another one called Second Chance when the price was a lot lower than it is now. But David Morgan is going to be the guest for the Saturday Night Post. We'll see if Bull Pony is right that gold and silver by next week, let's say the end of next week, will be at new all-time highs or near new all-time highs, which is not what the evil weasels wanted. And finally, just proof to show you that what the mainstream media really is a propaganda thought-shaping machine. I mean, I am a guy that's been in television since the 70s. I know what a story is. That's all I did at the networks was pick stories. I picked good stories, and I always picked good stuff that I knew that would work, and I have to chase my tail with and whatever. I always pick good. That was one of my main jobs, was picking good stuff. And I mean, you had to not just pick it, but research it and make sure it was all there and it would fly, and that we didn't have to get halfway through it and then kill it and start on something else, that the project would work out through, to the end, and it would be meaningful and something that people needed to know about. And the thing with, for example, the Center for Medical Progress and them releasing on camera the people at I want to say abortion hood, Planned Parenthood, Planned Abortion hood, admitting they harvested the organs from live babies. That's a story, but it wasn't a story to the mainstream press. I mean, if you walked into a story meeting and said, "Hey, I got a story about the Planned Parenthood admitting on camera in videotape depositions in sworn testimony with the threat of perjury, admitting that they harvested, in some cases, the organs from live babies." Then you have, baby killer Cooper, which is why I despise this man. The governor of North Carolina vetoed a bill that would have protected babies if they made it through an abortion. Well, I think a lot of times they want them live so they can harvest their organs, so they can have more time to harvest their organs while they're alive. Baby killer Cooper, this monster. That's a fact, folks. This is what I think. But you don't hear that in the mainstream press. You don't hear the harvesting the organs of, if you were harvesting the organs of a live 5-year-old, woo, that's a story. But not a baby. So here is a story that's not a story to the mainstream press. It happened this week. This happened in North Carolina. Black man approaches 5-year-old boy riding his bike, puts a gun to his head, and executes him in front of his 2 sisters. Here's the guy. Here's the weasel that should rot in hell. And here's the boy. Rode up on his bike, and the guy shot him in the head. Not a story. Could you imagine if there was a white guy, if this was a white guy and this was a black child, if a white man shot a black child in the head instead of a black man shooting a white child, and I'm not racist. If a white guy shot a black child, 5-year-old, on his bike in the head while his 2 sisters were watching, you think that'd be a story you'd hear about nonstop? You think Antifa and Black Lives Matter would be there burning down that guy's house? Pulling the white guy out and clubbing him to death? You think? You think that every microwave truck within 500 miles would be down in front of that guy's house? Walter shot a black child in the head in North Carolina. You think? Nope, not this. No, you don't hear about shh. No, this little kid doesn't matter. This beautiful little boy. Look at that. I want to start crying when I see that. How could you walk up to this child? You are sick, man. You need to be praying for, I don't know if that's going to do it. Praying for forgiveness. Not a story. Which is why am I telling you this? It's an awful story. Because what we have in the media is a psyop. You're supposed to believe that all white people are racist, and then you're supposed to believe that Black Lives Matter, and we're going to fix all this racism by these old white men that founded this country, even though we had a black president for 8 years. We have a fix for all this systemic racism and all this white privilege. It's called Marxism. Don't buy it. The press is evil. They're the enemy of the people. You can't even do a simple story like that. It should be a huge story. 5-year-old shot in the head, executed for no reason. Not an accident. Walked up to him and shot him in the head. Same thing with everything that you hear politically, the phony polls, Donald Trump's an asset of the Russians. They told us that lie for I don't know how long. Hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. The vaccine is fantastic. It's all a lie. Kamala Harris is a moderate along with Joe Biden. Lie, 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 lie. One big psyop. Don't fall for it. And it's also to make you afraid. It makes you fearful. Don't be fearful. Be informed. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments. I have some of the smartest people on the internet. Also, your donations, that helps us out. But it's a free site. Don't feel guilty if you can't do it. Just pass it along to somebody. Don't worry about it. It's about saving your soul and about saving the country. First and foremost, saving your soul, turning you to Jesus, repenting, praying. I'm a sinner. I'm not a preacher. I'm not holier than thou. Okay, but this is about in the part of the newscast would get me fired to tell you to fear not, prepare yourself mentally, physically, and above all spiritually. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in control. If I said that the very first time, my boss would call me in the office at one of these other networks, and this includes Fox, and tell me, hey, stop saying that. You do that again, we'll fire you. I can't get fired here, man. So just pray, like Jonathan Kahn said. I think September is going to be rough. I think you're going to see some real shaking in the end of this month as well. But I think September is going to be rough all the way through November, at least through the end of the year, if not longer. It's going to be rough. And I want you to not be fearful. I want you to be, I want you to be informed. And I want you to take action, and I want you to protect yourself, and I want you to pray. Thank you very much for supporting USAWatchdog.com. And just one more time, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all spiritually. God the Father, His Son, Jesus Christ are all firmly in the Holy Spirit, are all firmly in control. Again, thanks for supporting USAWatchdog.com.